Hi, I'm Cameron Bonsai. I'm the Vice President of Marketing with Costa Maine Brand, and I'm here with farmer Steph. Steph, this is our eighth walk in the garden.
Hi guys, yay!
How are you doing?
I'm so happy. It's so nice out today.
It's
It's
beautiful.
this golden sunny October day, which is funny because we were just talking about how this past week we had our first frost hit here in Maine.
Yeah. Yep.
So a lot of the farmers I know that I follow on Instagram all shared pictures of their first frost. Things that usually take a hit on first frost are like the tomatoes and peppers, your dahlias and your basil, zinnias, things like that. So, it's always bittersweet because I think some farmers, I know I am one of them. When first frost comes, we always called it Frostmas because you would go out and just harvest all the flowers and all the basil and all the tomatoes and just everything, all the green tomatoes, everything. And you would just take it and it's Frostmas. So you can share your
That's
harvest, share your bounty. So hopefully people got to do that this past week. And of course, because it's New England, it frosted and now it's like 80 and sunny. So
it's unbelievable how the weather just changes in a nanosecond.
it really does. But even when you go, there's Tractor chasing his
Love fracturing. Yeah.
He's great. But even when you go from a hard frost like that to a little bit of a warm spell, things that got hard frost, like your tomatoes, people would be like, well, are they going to come back? No, we're going to see hard frost. But so some things like that, it's just the time of season, time to let it go. Whereas other things, we got a frost here at my house, but I actually put remay all over all of my
Yep. We
dahlias.
talked about that a lot.
Yep, we did that in one of our garden walks, and it's worked out great, which I'm so happy about because I'm actually doing flowers for a wedding next weekend. So that's why I'm trying so hard to stretch these flowers to October 15th. But so far, my remay is working, which is great.
Oh, that's awesome. And then you're going to talk about, because of the frost and because of the time of year, things to bring in. And then we also need to talk specifically about things to harvest.
Yes. And the thing is about that, Cameron, I have gone through all of my bags of Bar Harbor. So
Oh, oh, I need to get you some more bags of Bar Harbor.
for all of you friends at home, Bar Harbor Mix is the one in the hot pink bag. It is my favorite bag, and it has the best potting soil. So what I do during this time of year is I actually go out into my garden and I dig up big plants. I have I would move it back out here, but I already put it inside my mudroom. It's a huge rosemary plant that's 3 years old now, and
Wow.
I've sheared it into like a tree. It has tree stalks on it, and it's in a big pot in my mudroom. But things like that, like this time, this rosemary here, this started as just a little seedling, but then it grew over the course of the season in my raised bed. And I
Yep.
just dug this right out of my raised bed. I'll put it in here, and then I'll plant it back out next spring. And it'll eventually turn into a big rosemary bush like the one I have in my mudroom. So you can do that with rosemary, thyme, sage, pretty oregano. Just remember, oregano and mint will spread. So if you do it with oregano and mint, just keep it in its own container because it'll all get intertwined.
Okay.
But other things to do when you're harvesting your herbs to bring in, go ahead and give them a nice little trim, a nice little haircut, and start drying your herbs. Bring them right into your kitchen. I hang mine over my kitchen sink. I have a line, and I just hang them over my kitchen sink. And it's a great way to continue to use your harvest. Don't let it go to waste. Don't think the season's over and just stop going outside. Harvest them, take them in, and just hang them upside to dry when they're dry. Don't harvest your herbs or flowers or anything that you want to preserve when they have morning dew on them. Make sure it's dry when you harvest. Episode. But one of the cool things I wanted to talk to people about is succulents. Because a lot of people have succulents and they work great outside, but then sometimes when you bring them in, you think they die off and they can be kind of fussy. Here's the thing with succulents. You can, if you have things like Sedona, you can dig that up, put it in a pot, and bring it inside, and then pot it back out. Also, things like sedum, celosia, things like that will look really pretty. But I love bringing in my succulents. I have some succulents here that let me show you. Oh, here we are. Anytime you're working with succulents, you're always going to lose some on the base. You know, anytime you're dealing with succulents and you take it out, something's always going to pop off, like a little stem or leaf like that. When you're potting your succulents, you're going to have a lot of these things come off. And that's okay. That's part of the growth of the plant. And when they come off, when you're just repotting them, they're coming off because it's time for them to. You'll notice if you leave a succulent alone for a few days, it starts to, the cut here will
Yep.
start to cure. It'll start to turn brown, and a little root will start to come off of that. That little root is all it needs to start a new plant. So a lot of times if we bring our succulents in winter, they do get kind of fussy because when you're indoor watering, it's hard to stay regular with that. And you'll see sometimes every now and then they look dead at the bottom. And that's because it is. What you want to do is just peel off the dead bits and then just take these nice new ones that just came off and lay them right on top of the soil. You just lay them on top. You don't have to put it in. You don't have to plant them. Lay it right on top. And that's because we want that cut to cure and then the root will come out and you'll see the root starting to come out. And it's just a really cool plant to have indoors when everything else is dead because you can almost see them like bulging alive in front of you. And then you can really see how I have about 6 different plugs, I'll call them, on this plant. But once I start seeing those roots, it'll go into its own separate little container like this.
And
So
so all you have to do is wait. There's nothing special you have to do with them, right?
exactly, you just have to wait. Like this one took root just a couple days ago, and it's just this little sprout right now, but all it just came from one of these guys just throwing its roots down. So it's one of those things where you can go to nurseries right now and they might be having great sales
Yeah.
on perennials and succulents. And you might see a succulent at like Walmart that looks like sad or something, and just bring it home, give it a little TLC, take off the little lower nobbins, and let those propagate. It's really fun to work with succulents.
And
The
so just for a blatant ad in the middle of this, we do have a succulent mix. Our Mount Desert Island blend is blended specifically for succulents. You'll find it at your independent garden center or hardware store, and you can find it just by contacting us too.
And I've got to say, because I'm a visual person, that's in the red bag.
Yeah,
And it's
it is in the red bag.
it's such a good mix, Cameron. That's what these have. And I have about 30 of these all on my windowsills
Yep.
indoors. And every single one of these started by one of these little, I have a huge plant of this, like it's a massive plant. And I was taking it out to repot it, and I had a ton of these fall off, and I just put them right on the soil in the succulent mix, and they just totally, I didn't even plant this in the ground. It totally just grew into the succulent mix. And you can see I have another little stem in here too. This is from a wandering Jew plant that I was potting up. And anything, any kind of house plant, just take the stem, put it in some soil. Most likely it'll reroot itself and you have a beautiful plant.
That's
And
awesome.
they grow really fun. So when everything else is kind of quiet and dead outside and sleeping, it is fun to play with plants that grow really quickly and succulents that you can see actually like curing and then sprouting and then routing and then growing. Like it all happens so quick. It's fun to do in the wintertime.
Well, I think it's also why they're so popular, because I think especially for people just getting into gardening and people that may only have apartments or smaller houses, it is fascinating to have succulents and really learn how to become a gardener in that basic way. I think that's awesome.
And just to continue the season, like, yeah, we in here in Maine, I'm not going to try to overwinter tomatoes in my house, but I can overwinter these succulents and my herbs. I can overwinter. I have this gorgeous, let me see if you can see it. It's a really pretty branching geranium. People love geraniums. A lot of people don't know.
Yep.
Geraniums, you can like bonsai a geranium. You can keep geraniums for years, for like 20 years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're really cool. My friends Donna and Matt do it, and they have geraniums they've had since they met 20 years ago. So it's
Wow.
pretty cool, and they bonsai them with wire and stuff. It's nice. This is a branching geranium plant. It's only 2 years old, but let me see if you can see it. Could you see that? It's really
Yeah,
big. This is like, I purchased this as a regular geranium in like a 1 quart pot 2 seasons ago, and I've left it in that pedestal. But I pot it with the Bar Harbor blend at the beginning of every fall. I put new Bar Harbor mix in it, and then it just does so well. So a lot of times, like, this is such a fun time of season to look around in your garden, whether it's a patio garden or your front yard, see what you love. If there's like a geranium out there or some like wave petunias that are
sure.
still going, go ahead and bring them in.
And you're gonna save money, you're gonna enjoy it, you're gonna get more attached to it. It's like having a pet,
Yes.
right? You know, they develop personalities, they grow, they misbehave, you know.
Also, yeah, it's like a lot of people will take their plants, like this is portulaca, which is just a pretty flowering annual that it's all done now. It's it doesn't owe me anything. It did a great job. So this is going to go in my compost, and I'm going to put some more thyme or rosemary or some kind of herb in this guy and bring it in my kitchen. But it is also really, really nice to have these plants on your kitchen counter. It smells nice. It reminds you to use fresh spices or fresh herbs,
Yeah.
and they will continually grow for you all season long. You just have to continuously harvest, and they'll continue to grow for you.
How much sunlight do those need?
I would say you can put them in a windowsill. They'll do fine in a windowsill. Rosemary can get woody. So, and I always like to just agitate the tops of the soil, maybe like once a month, so it doesn't get like moldy on top of the soil in my house plants. But I would say you would need 6 hours probably of like indirect sunlight through a window.
And when you talk about agitating the soil, you're just basically running your fingers through and breaking it up a little bit, because you
Yeah,
sometimes can get a crust or a mold.
when you top water, and usually if I'm growing seedlings, I always am hitting that soil with a continuous flow of a fan. But in
Yep,
my living room, honestly, I'm not going to have a fan going in wintertime in Maine. And I just know that about myself. And
yep.
so it's going to be stagnant. And so I'm going to take my hand and just, like you said, because sometimes you can see a white crustiness start to get on your soil sometimes, like, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just, you just want to get it in there.
Yeah, it's just a little, it is a little bit of mold,
Yeah,
and it's harmless, but you want to, if you just do that and get it some sunlight and some airflow, you're going to be fine.
exactly. And then I would say once every 4 weeks, I like to apply the squid emulsion, which is fantastic because it is great for indoor use. There aren't a lot of brands, fish emulsions
Yeah.
especially, that you can use that you can really use indoors. And I love the squid one because you can actually use it and it's not terribly offensive in your house.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a smell. It
It does.
does.
It's not,
It's
it's not odorless by any
right.
means, but anytime this is the season, like I have all these plants outside today, what I do is I apply a thorough fish emulsion, like a
Yep.
foliar fish emulsion, where I'll wait until I can see it coming out the bottom and I know the terracotta pot is drenched. I'll give it a thorough fish emulsion watering and let it sit outside for a day, and then bring it into my mudroom for the season. So give yourself that window of like a day or two between doing the fish emulsion and bringing it into your home for the season.
So, quick side note. We used to have a fermented salmon fertilizer. Worst smelling stuff you've ever smelled in your entire life. It worked extremely well as a deer repellent.
I was gonna ask.
We got in trouble because somebody wrote about it as a deer repellent. A big issue, but we used to have people call all the time with issues because of the smell. And we had a woman call hysterical down in Connecticut. She was having a dinner party that night, and for some reason she went around her inside plants
Don't do that.
and used the fish fertilizer, and she couldn't get the smell away. And it was something you couldn't get the smell away. We had people spill it in their cars. We had the US Postal Service called Carlos at 3 o'clock one morning because the bottles exploded,
No.
and they had to shut down one of the warehouses, and We actually had one of the workers sue us for. So anyway, that's
It's
just a good
odorless by
story.
any means.
Yeah, so we don't make a fermented salmon fertilizer anymore. We won't have any of those issues with our current stuff. We still have people call us for it. We have not made it for almost 20 years.
It was that
People-
good with the deer.
Yeah. No, it worked great. So anyways, I didn't mean to get off base on
Oh
that.
my gosh, I love it. Yeah,
So,
no, that's a good point. Definitely give yourself a little minute before bringing in. But I highly recommend giving them a nice fish emulsion, or even if you have Stonington plant food, you can take some of that and just, all you do is take about a tablespoon in your hand and
Yep.
just agitate it into the soil with your fingers. That's it. Any kind of plant food or foliar spray, do it.
I will say that Stonington plant food, it's a granular, it's a uniform size. It is lobster meal, it's kelp meal, it's worm castings. It's the most complete granular plant food you can use. It's awesome. It's easy. Yeah, and you can get it everywhere. So
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I just am guessing this from when I use it. But the way it releases its nutrients, I feel like it lasts the longest in terms of releasing nutrients for the longest period of time, which is
it does. It'll last much longer than the squid. The squid, it'll take longer to have an impact because it has to break down, but it will last longer than the squid. The squid will give your plant an immediate, hey, boost. I need something right now. The granular fertilizers will take several days to break down, sometimes up to a week, but they'll probably feed 6 to 8 weeks at least.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if you put that in, like, yeah, we were saying to feed them every 4 to 6 weeks. So that's perfect.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that you're gonna, if you're using some Stonington, put a little bit of that in there, the plant food, you're gonna be good to go.
Yeah, you're looking at like 2 feeds for the winter before you can get your herbs or
That's all you need.
back outside.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what are you harvesting right now?
So right now, I mentioned we got our frost. So pesto season's over. Thank goodness. Right now, I'm harvesting a ton of flowers to dry because I love making dried floral wreaths and
Yeah.
crafts, things like that. So I'm drying a lot of celosia, marigolds, lots of zinnias, dahlias, things like that. We still have dahlias going, so I still am producing cut flower bouquets, and then beans are still going. We've got radish in the ground. The carrots are fabulous. I just made the Erin French dad's meatloaf recipe, which uses a ton of carrots, which is interesting. So yeah, after after we get that, like, root vegetables love being kissed by frost. They really do make them sweeter. So I just love carrots right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then anything else? Anything else that's like, I'm bringing it in, I'm sharing it. Oh, yes.
The Edible Maine magazine. Wow, you guys, look at this. Look at this on page 22. We open it up. Look at it. Oh,
There you are. Keep calm on the farm. Yeah,
keep
that's
calm
awesome.
and farm on. So perfect title.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. And the who wrote it? Who actually wrote it?
It's written by Nina Murray and photos by Kelsey Kovic.
That's awesome. So
Yeah,
that just came out this week.
Yeah, I think it came out about a little over a week ago, but yeah.
That's great. So did you want to read it aloud to us?
Read it? No, go get your copy and I'll sign it for you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Read page 21, 22, and 23, 24. It's a long article.
It's awesome. I gotta pick up a copy. That's good. And so that's that you deserve that recognition, by the way, as much as you can get. That's awesome. So I think that's about it for us today.
Cool.
So
well, I'm going back outside, or I'm staying outside because it's so nice out. So I'm gonna go back in my garden to play a little bit before the kids get out of school.
All right. Well, go have fun, and we will talk to you next week.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. See you later.